Hey, what's up, guys? I am out here of the poker game, about to start it up. Another 1-2 hold'em game. It's going to be the same game as last time. Hopefully we can keep up this win streak. I think we're on 3 wins in a row right now, so hopefully we make it 4. But without further ado, let's go to those poker hands and see what happens.
Alright guys, so the first hand we look down and see is pocket sixes. The button has a $6 straddle. I decide to call. Under the gun raises to 26. As you can see on the screen, I'm just joking around with him like, whoa buddy, hey, friendly game, just a call. Obviously it's 26 stands. Under the gun +1 calls, middle position calls, button calls, and I decide to make the call as well with pocket sixes. Hopefully we can flop a set, maybe a straight, I don't know, but for an extra $20 with how much is in the pot, I'm not folding my pocket sixes just yet. The flop comes out and it's 3-4 queen with 2 clubs. Now, this isn't the best flop for pocket sixes, but it's actually not that bad either. So when it checks around to the button and he leads out for 40, I decide I'm gonna make a call, keep him honest. The only thing he really can be betting here is a queen, maybe a flush draw, and everything else is just him taking a stab, trying to take the pot down right here and now. So when everyone else folds, we go heads up to the turn. And what I'm looking for is some sort of connected card, maybe a 6. So when the 5 of clubs comes on the turn, even though it brings in the front door flush, it does give us open-ended. So after I check and the button decides that he wants to bet $40, I once again think this is a spot where we just kind of have to call and see what happens on the river. So for the river, I'm really hoping to obviously see one of the cards that makes us our hand, gives us our straight. But that's not what we get. We get the 8 of hearts. I decide to check because once again, there's no reason to bet. The button thinks about it for a while before he decides he's landing on a $75 bet. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I don't really understand or believe his story. Number one, I don't think a queen is going for 3 streets of value on this board. And I think a flush that hits her flush on the turn bets more than 40 on the turn. So it really leaves him with no hands. With all this in mind, I decide to make the call. As soon as I call the $75, he mucks his hand back to the dealer. We don't even have to show. We take it down, start off with a nice little win, and let's go on to the next hand. So on this hand, we look down and see ace king suited. Beautiful hand, middle position had already raised to 15. I had already re-raised to 85 by the time I actually started recording. And this is kind of where we pick up the hand. I decided to go with a 5.5x raise because with ace king, I want to put people in a spot where they're either going all in, which under the gun decides to do for $81, or they have to commit a big portion of their stack to call and see a flop. I don't want to raise to like 30, 45 and have half of the table limp in because once again, it's Texas, guys. Middle position calls, and once again, if I can give y'all any advice, stop just doing the min click, okay? Don't make it 30. Raise to a decent amount. Do a 4x raise, something like that. See who all's in the hand, see who your opponent is, and see what the appropriate action is going to be. Every situation is going to be different. In this one, once again, we have an action player, so raising larger, he was more likely to call. The flop comes out, and it's Jack 10-4 rainbow. After middle position checks, we have 2 overs, we have a gut shot, nut straight draw, we have a runner under flush. I'm going all in. As soon as I say all in, he immediately folds and we're going heads up to the turn. Turns is 7 of spades, doesn't change anything, but then when the ace of clubs on the river comes, I think I'm pretty good. I show my ace king, take down the side pot. The main pot, he shows ace queen. Unfortunately, we had him pipped, so he mucks his cards and we take it down in the main pot as well. Alright guys, for the next hand we see the amazing ace king. This time it's offsuit though, so a little bit different. Under the gun decides he wanted to straddle for $6, which is amazing for me. Middle position calls and I raise it up to 65. I like to make it a little bit larger of a raise when I'm in the small blind or when I'm out of position in general. Under the gun decides he wants to make the call, and it folds around to the middle position player, who takes his time, thinks about it, understandably so. It's a pretty big raise, but eventually he decides that his cards are good enough. He makes a call, and we're going 3 ways to a flop. Not the best thing with ace king. Heads up, I would have much rather preferred, but nonetheless, we still have an amazing hand, and hopefully we can hit this flop pretty well. The flop comes out and it's Jack 8 Queen with 2 clubs and 1 heart. We flop a gut shot, but other than that, this is going to smash our opponent's range. So I immediately check. Under the gun decides to check, and at this point we're just waiting on the middle position player. He looks at his cards and eventually decides on a check as well. The turn comes, it's a king of spades. Gives us top, but I need to protect my range and I don't want to bet here and get raised. So I decide to check. Under the gun bets $40, middle position calls, and I think raising here is just a horrible play, so I decide just to make the call and see what happens on the river. The river comes out and it's the 3 hearts. Once again, I don't see any point in leading here and getting raised and just hating my life, so I check. And the last thing we wanted to see happens. Under the gun decides to go all in for $203. Middle position folds and it's back on us. I honestly think this is a tough spot and it could go either way. We're not holding any clubs, so he could easily have missed a flush draw and just decided to go all in, barreling to take down the pot. We have ace king here, so we block ace 10, but there are a whole bunch of 2-pair combos that do beat us. I don't think it's likely he has 9-10 because he checked the flop and only bet 40 on the turn. So I'm discounting that. I also don't put him on a set because I think they bet earlier. So I'm in a position where I don't really know what he has and I'm very confused. And normally when I'm in spots like that, I just decide to YOLO it and give it a call. And that's what I do. I call and he flips over 9-10 for the flop straight. So obviously I don't know what the heck I'm talking about. Poker's a hard game. We lost that one, but hopefully we can turn it around. Alright guys, we didn't have too many hands, so this is going to be the last hand of the vlog. The button wanted to straddle for 5, and I decided to straddle for 10. Now, this is going to be a PLO hand, so once again, if you're not familiar with PLO, you have 4 cards, you have to use 2 out of your hand and 3 on the board to make the best 5-card hand. We look down and we see ace, king, 7-10, with the 7-10 being suited of hearts, but unfortunately the ace and king not being suited. The button calls and the big blind calls the $10, and I'm gonna be honest, this is not the best hand. We have 3 Broadway cards, so that's good, but when the under the gun calls and the hijack calls, I kinda like this spot to squeeze, so I decide to pot it up to $80. Hoping just to take the pot down now, take down all that dead money, and win a nice little hand, because that's what poker is all about. It's about taking down those little hands here and there. Not every hand has to be an all-in, a $500,000 hand. You know, the little hands add up over time. But much to my chagrin, after I make it the $80, well, once again, people like to gamble here. The button calls and the big blind calls as well. Not exactly the outcome I was looking for, but when under the gun decides to go all in for his remaining, I think it was $60. So he goes all in for $60 and it gets back around to the cutoff. And he decides to rip in his stack of $160, which reopens the pot. This is where I'm thinking, hey, I can actually repot now, take down all this extra $80 here and there of the button and of the big blind, their extra $80, and then go 3 ways to a flop, which is a lot better than having to go 5 ways and run into all these extra hands. So that's what I do, and all those plans go straight out the window when the button calls for an additional 320. But hey, we did get the big blind to fold, so I guess that's something. Now all we can do is pray to the poker gods and hope that we win this hand. So after the dealer gets all the pots right, and the flop comes out, which is a king of clubs, an ace of spades, and deuce of hearts. So we flop top 2 pair with a rainbow, which makes me feel real good. But then the deuce of clubs comes on the turn, which makes any deuce beat us, and then 10 of clubs comes on the river, completing some straights and also putting a flush out there. So Our flop 2 pair is extremely vulnerable right about now. Luckily, the button flips over his cards, so we have him beat and we scoop the side pot. The cutoff flips over his cards next because he was in for the next biggest pot. We have him beat as well, so we scoop the second largest side pot. Can we scoop it all? Are we really gonna fade everything? And at that point, the under the gun mucks his cards and we take down the entire pot. I have no idea how top 2 held on such a dynamic board, but hey, it's a good way to end the night, and let's go to the outro to see what we made.
All right, guys. So I ended up making a total of $500 off of the game. We had some ups and downs. Ended up calling in a spot where I think we could have gotten away from with that ace king. Like I said, I think it's 50-50 kind of, but I don't know. I was thinking about it more. Maybe it's more of a fold. We save some money there. But anyways, played a couple other hands. Lost like 100 here and there trying to see flops, all that good stuff. But all in all, another win, 500 ain't bad. So appreciate you guys. And don't forget to like and subscribe. It actually helps out the channel a lot. I'll see you guys on the next one.